Welcome to episode 44 of the Inside Real Estate Podcast. I'm Brian Castor, your host, and today we have on Megan Walters. You are an EXP agent from Columbia, Missouri, right?
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. We just started like going after guests that are not like in our area because I kind of think it spices it up a little bit. We saw you out there. You look like a fun conversation. So let's start off with just some rapid fire fun questions to get going. All right. So what's your go-to coffee order before a showing?
Oh, just black coffee.
Black coffee.
Yep.
Okay.
Nothing exciting, nothing proofy. It's just black coffee, no cream or sugar.
Awesome. All right. So if you weren't in real estate, what different career would you be crushing right now?
I thought it was going to be psychology and a family counselor.
Okay.
But more than likely, looking back, probably something in marketing.
Okay. Yeah, I think you'd be using that psychology end of things anyway in real estate. Worst DIY project you've ever seen in a house?
Where the bathroom door hits the toilet. And so where they situated the toilet, you couldn't get around with the door. And all I can think about is somebody opening it and smashing their knees with the door.
Yes. Yep. When we're like in properties and we're taking pictures sometimes where the door is, I'm like, who did this?
Why? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Most stressful. What's more stressful, a tough negotiation or picking a photo for your Instagram post?
Picking a photo for my Instagram post.
Okay. You get one song as your walk-up music for every listing appointment. What is it?
Oh, God.
That's like when you'd want to put some thought into, right?
That is. I honestly don't know. And I'm also terrible with music and knowing the names of songs. So that makes it even double hard. I wish my husband was here because he probably had something off the top of my head.
Just think like WWE walking down to the ring. You know what's funny about that? I used to, when we had to listen to the radio and we didn't have access to all the all the music at like our fingertips before, like everybody would know who the current people are. I like know some of the songs and like I like this song, but I have no idea who sings any of these things anymore.
Me either. I'm trying to even remember what my high school walk-up song was. I can't even remember that. I'm sure that's something probably I wouldn't even want to share if I did remember.
Yeah. Take a second and just give everybody a little background on yourself. Tell them who you are, where you're from, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Columbia, Missouri, and so I'm pretty much right where I was born and raised. I got into real estate when I was 23. Pretty much right out of college, I got recruited by a local brokerage here, and I was bartending at the time. And I told him that was crazy to get into real estate with all my student loan debt and that it was commission, and I was 23 and who would trust me. But after trying to explore a couple different options that were safe careers, the door kept slamming in my face. And so after it slammed in my face, probably like the fourth or fifth time, I was like, screw it. So I went and took my real estate exam, passed on the first try, which for me, I am really bad at tests. You could put a test in front of me of questions about myself, and I would probably still, for some reason, get like a C-. Yeah. And so for me to pass like the exam was kind of like a sign is how I took it. And then jumped in and haven't looked back. But yeah, alongside starting my real estate career, my husband and I also had started a coffee roastery. So we got our business license, our marriage license, and my real estate license all within 3 months back in 2017. And grew those alongside each other along with our marriage. Ended up selling our coffee business probably 3 years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago. And my husband got into real estate with me. And so between me doing real estate sales, he handles all the investment sides of flipping houses, managing our own rentals, and just kind of taking on that side of the business. And we just welcomed our first kiddo back in last July. So he's 1 year old now.
Congratulations.
So yeah, it's been a fun, almost, well, we've been together for 10 years, but 8 years in this business. It's been a fun journey.
Awesome. So you kind of have a little bit of everything that you could possibly mix into a life right now.
Kind of.
How'd the coffee roastery thing go?
It went really well. We kind of like have always just supported each other's endeavors. And so when I first started real estate, I was helping him roast. So we were the only air roaster. The closest thing was Kansas City, which is about 2 hours from where we're located. And air roasting is essentially, long story short, less aesthetic than when you drum roasting. And you can manage the bean a lot better so it doesn't burn and then you get bitter coffee. And so he really started that out of just sheer grief because I was having issues with normal coffee. And he had researched that air roasted coffee helps people that have reactions to normal coffee. And that's how that kind of started. It ended up growing. We ended up getting into stores like Home Goods. And then, we were all in the wholesale. So we supplied to a lot of businesses around here, like all the coffee stores, the restaurants, white labeled a lot of stuff, and then ended up getting on somebody else's radar, and they approached us about purchasing us. And at that point, my husband really wanted to get into real estate so we can continue working together because we were both so busy that we just didn't see each other anymore. And that wasn't really the goal.
So that was a pretty successful business for what it was.
It not as much money in coffee, just full transparency.
Yeah.
But it did very well, and it's a chapter in our life that we're very happy that we did and learned a lot from.
What's something that maybe you learned doing that translated or is helping you now?
Patience. Because definitely growing coffee took a little bit longer. And so patience with that, but then also having to adjust because we still owned the coffee business when COVID happened. And so though we were like a wholesaler, we decided it was a smart idea to open a coffee roastery the second COVID happened. It was mostly a roastery, but a very, very small coffee shop in the front. So we got really creative with how to make sure that was still successful, even though there was so much that was out of our control at the time. And then that kind of just fed into having the creative mindset then with real estate of when you have a tricky listing, trying to find out how to get it sold, or maybe a client that's really got a list of needs that are hard to find, anything like that. It kind of just fueled your creative side to be able to kind of with both of them.
Very cool. And you guys also do, like, personally for just you guys, you do investing and things like that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So I want to say we're at like almost 15 doors.
Nice.
Now. And so he started doing that about 3 years ago now. And then he flipped probably 10 to 15 houses a year to kind of fuel that. And so our goal is we don't want hundreds and hundreds of doors. We just want the right ones. We want newer ones that are low maintenance. And then kind of growing that.
All single doors? Any multi-unit?
No, a couple multi. We're building a triplex right now. And then also this year, another thing that we got into doing, because I represent a few builders, is building spec houses in a new development.
Okay.
So it's really diversified in our multifamily, single family, short-term rental, midterm rental, and then now also specs.
Now, was that something, all of that, was that a product of, hey, we're in real estate now, this is something we should do, or was it something that was kind of always on the radar?
It just kind of fell in our laps. I think owning rentals, because of my just not having a retirement plan really in real estate, that was kind of what we knew we needed to build. So I wasn't having to sell houses when I was 80 years old. The specs and the short and midterm rentals, those kind of just fell into the lap, just seeing the need of our local area.
So with all the things that didn't work out leading into real estate, how did real estate come about to be like the next thing?
Yeah, so back to like kind of when the doors were slamming in my face. So the job that I wanted to do that everyone in here in Columbia has is at Veterans United. And they're a huge lender. And that's where pretty much everyone goes and works because it's an incredible business. So I wanted to be a loan officer because I was like, well, that makes sense. I'll do the loan officer side because I get a salary and then I'll get in real estate. So that was the exam that I failed 4 different times, I think. And so then getting into real estate, I mean, like I said, that was kind of like, for me, the door just kept getting slammed in my face. And so when I went and said, screw it, let me go take this real estate exam, see what happens. And I passed on my first try. It was one of those things where I was like, this is a sign for something from something greater.
Yeah.
And I need to move forward with it. And I did. And it was a very hard, couple years for sure. I won't deny it, but it taught me a lot about grit, consistency, and I mean, looking back, I'm extremely grateful that those doors were slammed.
So we're in Pennsylvania, and I don't have it anymore, but I did have my when I started this business with my dad in '06, right as everything tanked in '07, '08, I was like, oh, I have all the stuff to sell a house. Let me get my license. So I think it was like 60 hours back then. I think it's like closer to 100 hours now. How many hours of education is it for you guys?
I want to say it's 120, but it's also been like 8 years since I did that.
Yeah. I think it was damn close to by the skin of my teeth, me passing the test in the first time. I know people that are like, oh, I took all the classes and now I'm scared to take the test. And if they're like 6 months out, I'm like, you're going to fail that because you waited.
I think all I did was I ended up writing down every question on the practice exams that they did online on note cards. And I remembered those. And I know I was told that they're going to switch the questions out. It won't be the exact same. But honestly, I had hopes that they were going to be very similar.
Yeah.
Who wants to rewrite however many hundreds of questions over and over again?
Yeah.
And I was luckily pretty right in that assumption, and that the questions were the same but worded a little different, or the name was different. So I honestly actually just remembered most of the questions and answers from the practice exams.
Good sign, right?
Maybe having to truly understand every single definition or equation that came about, because I mean, looking back, pretty much like I think anything, just because you go take the exam and you pass, you don't know anything about real estate.
I say the same thing all the time.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Big whoop, but
like you know on paper more than the average person, but you still don't know anything until you start doing it.
Nope. I don't think I have used absolutely a single thing from that exam in my actual career.
I always say like real estate's one of those things that it doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. If you got your eyes and ears open, you can learn something on every transaction. Because there's always, it's a different ego, different agent, different problem. Could be the same house on paper, but there's always something new. You know, the first time you deal with this issue is the first time you deal with this issue, you know? All right. So I want to talk a little bit about how long have you been in the business?
Since 2017. So what is that?
8 years-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about your like journey in growing the business. So, how did you think real estate was going to be versus how it actually is?
Like the actual,
like your perception of what you were walking into versus like what you really deal with on a regular basis.
I don't know if I had a lot of perception. I knew it was going to be working with people. And because at that time, I had also went to school to get my psychology degree, I knew that I wanted to do something that involved helping and working alongside people in an intimate setting. And so that was my only perception. I didn't watch like Selling the Sunset. I don't even know if that was around 8 years ago. I don't know. But I never watched those things. So I actually had no perception other than the agents that my parents had hired growing up. And both of them were very straight, intimidating people. So I think I also thought everyone was going to be, sorry if I cuss, I thought everyone was going to be an asshole. And I was like, then I'm working with people. I think that was my only perception. And then getting into it, not everyone's an asshole, but
but a lot of them.
But working alongside people like that ended up being correct, and being able to work along like positive and negative times in their life and being able to kind of help them navigate that. But I didn't have like expectations. I think I definitely didn't think that I would have gotten to where I am today. I think I always kind of thought there was no way I could. And a lot of that was just insecurity on my age when I started.
What
And
about
so,
what about on the business end?
mhm.
Like, I think I always find that a lot of agents, there's agents that are selling houses, and then there's agents that are running businesses, and a lot of them never get past that. Like, they think, they have that like employee mentality instead of like a business owner mentality. Did you struggle with that? Was that a switch you had to flip?
No, so because I was starting the coffee business at the same time.
Right.
And so for me, I always had kind of that entrepreneurial mindset of this is a business that I have to start from the ground up. And since I was doing that alongside the coffee business, I was just kind of mirroring them in the things that I had to do. I knew I had to get systems in place day one. So like my very first purchase wasn't a real estate sign, it was a CRM. I had like probably 20 contacts to put in there, which was my family. But that's how I started. And I ended up creating all these workflows in the sense of like, once I actually went through a transaction, I wrote down how you went through a transaction and started building workflows and systems within that, literally from the very first transaction I ever did. So I always had the idea and knew that it was growing a business versus, yeah, just being in sales, being an agent at a brokerage, just kind of going along with the flow. And so a lot of that, I'm very grateful to the coffee business because it gave me that mindset from day one to where like I am today. A lot of my stuff is automated and already like hired out. So the production level that I can do as like one person is significantly higher than maybe another because of all those years of kind of building the systems and in place to be time management like savvy.
Awesome. Now, so my next thing was gonna be like, what's the first thing you did when getting started, right? So getting systems in place. I think a lot of people struggle with that. And did you just kind of from the coffee business, you kind of had like a general idea, or did you have to go, or did you like seek help from experienced agents to kind of say, hey, what do you have that's working?
Yeah, so I read books. Not kind of like dissing on any like local agent here, but I knew that everybody here was not necessarily what I was trying to be. And so I ended up finding mentors later on who helped me in the transaction, the legal side, how to like definitely go through certain circumstance that were really huge and pivotal people in my life. But from actually building a brand and building a business, I read from agents from California, from New York, from everywhere other than the Midwest. And that's how I actually got a lot of it. So where I found my CRM was through one of the books. I ended up finding a mentorship program that was based out of New York and ended up going to conferences out there and kind of shadowed to understand what their brokerage looked like, what their sales and marketing looked like to kind of end up mirroring that here. So I read a ton. I didn't do the training classes at the brokerage because full transparency, they teach you go door knock. You got to make 1,000 calls. You got to do this. You got to do that. I think it's a crock shit. For me, I'm like, I'm not going to go knock on a door and be like, hi, stranger, you're probably in your PJs watching Netflix. You want to sell your house? Like, I would be so pissed if somebody did it to me. Why am I going to do it to somebody else? And same with calling. I like decline most phone calls that if I don't have your number because I'm busy. Most people are busy. They don't want you calling them and trying to sell them or cold call and be like, do you want to buy a house? I talked to you a year ago. So that is all that I felt like local brokerages were teaching is you have to do X, Y, Z. You have to color inside the lines. And that wasn't me. I was like, I want to color over here. I want to do this. And they're like, well, no, that doesn't work. I'm like, well, why? And no one could ever tell me why. They were just like, well, this doesn't work. That's not what we do for the past 30 years. I'm like, that's exactly why I want to do it. So, yeah, I had to learn from agents and find resources that was everywhere but Missouri.
That's different. Not everybody does that for sure. When it comes to how long was it before you were able to secure your first transaction?
Probably 2 months.
2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then like starting, with your 20 family members in your contacts, how did you approach going after leads and prospecting?
So I did open houses. I would go to the experienced agents at my brokerage, and I would do every Monday. And that's kind of one of the things that I'll tell new agents when I talk to them these days is every other agent goes to those agents on Thursday. And they're like, well, what open houses do you want hosted? I would go into their office on Monday morning and say, what listings are you going to list on Friday that I can host on Saturday? Because I learned at that point everyone was listing houses on a Thursday and a Friday around here. So I'd go in, secure those, do 4 every single weekend. Then I would market the crap out of their open houses, whether it was door hangers. And again, I wasn't knocking, just putting it on the door and running away. Door hangers or social media is probably the biggest one. It was, hey, I'm doing these 4 open houses. Here are the photos. Here's this. Consistently doing that ended up building where others were like, oh, she's in real estate. She's in real estate. They didn't know it wasn't my listing. They didn't need to know. They just saw that I was in real estate. And so that was really where I started prospecting. And then being at the open houses taught me a lot on how to talk to people and find my flow and what did I want my open houses to look like. I would even go to other agents' open houses to see what they did and what I didn't like at theirs to make sure I didn't do it at mine. And that's essentially how I started kind of getting buyers, was through that. My first transaction ever was a personal friend, but then my second and my third and my fourth, all of them were for open houses. And so they were all buyers buying houses that I had met. And the biggest thing that I did at an open house that no one else was doing, at least that I saw, was like, sure, you would have the information about that house you're hosting, but I would also then have a list of all the other houses that were probably within a 2 or 3 mile radius that were also for sale on a similar price point. I would have those. And I would say, hey, have you seen any of these houses? And they're like, oh, well, no. I'm like, well, if you wait 20 minutes, I'll be out of here. Let's go look at this one. And they're like, great. And then it would either sell a house or convert a buyer, because I was giving them something value that wasn't the house that they were in. And most of the time people aren't going to buy the house off an open house, at least around here.
Wow.
So that's how I started converting a lot of buyers.
Was that just like light bulb moment, or is that something, how did you think of that?
It just made sense. I don't know.
Okay.
I guess light bulb moment. It just it made sense that I started learning, like after I had done a few open houses, that people kept asking me about different houses. They're like, well, how many days on market is that one over there? They kept asking about every other house than the one that I was standing in. And so I was like, well, if that's the case, I'm just going to start making this like a showing like cycle where I'm just going to take you to that house if you don't have an agent. And then at that point, they've had more time to build connection with you and trust. So I wouldn't get their contact information until after that next showing. So I wasn't sitting there at the open house like, hey, stranger, give me your number. That doesn't work in a bar, doesn't work in an open house. And so it might work for some, but so I would ask then on the second house, be like, hey, like, okay, do you guys want me to go ahead and set you up on a portal so houses like this can be sent your way if you're not working with somebody? They're like, yes. And then it was easy.
Right. I was going to say easy because now the rapport is built.
Yeah. They were like, oh, she went this extra mile, because every other agent at the open house was likely following them into the bathroom and being weird and being like, hey, look at this. Or do you love this house? Sign in here. And again, that's just, for me, extremely unnatural. And so it didn't reside with me. And I feel like most people it doesn't reside with as well. So the ones that were probably more like me appreciated the approach that I probably would have appreciated myself.
Absolutely. Something you said in there, so that you were promoting these open houses and other people's open houses, and you said that essentially what you were saying is it was kind of creating the perception of you being associated with real estate and whether or not it was your listing or not. Talk about having people perceive you as a realtor. How important was that to create that perception of yourself in the beginning? Very,
because the one thing I had kept hearing from anybody was consistency in whatever it was that you were doing. And so for me, it was social media, and it was, I want people to consistently see I was in real estate. I think one of the things one of my mentors had told me was it will take like 2 or 3 years for the people around you to actually trust you, because everybody gets their license at some point. Everybody's a real estate agent at some point. They don't want to be your guinea pig. And right. So they would tell me, they're like, be aware your friends are not going to likely use you for a few years. And it was very true. One of my best friends sold her house with another agent in my brokerage that she had already previously worked with. But it hurt my feelings. If I was being honest, I was like, I didn't even know. But it was the truth of what one of my mentors had told me. So I was like, I need to consistently show that I'm doing this. I am serious about this to have everybody around me trust me. And so that was probably one of the biggest things was if it was an open house, great. If it was a house I put under contract, great. If it was just a house that I was walking by showing or acting like I was showing, great. And at that time, I had plenty of time to go do virtual tours just to go preview a house. Like I wanted to know, I remember my first time I ever showed a luxury home, I got a lead off of I think just a phone call. And at that point in my life, at that point in Columbia, $500,000 was a lot of money. Now it can buy you nothing. But at that point, it was a lot. And I had never stepped foot in a $500,000 house in my life. I grew up in a small house. So I was like, well, I need to go look at it. And so I would do anything. So I would go look at these houses that were 500,000 so I can get the little fangirl out of me of the oohs and ahs. But then I would record the house and then I would put it on my social media being like, look what I'm doing. And so it was just this constant ever evolving of, I know everyone around, even if it didn't get like a crazy amount of, like comments or what's the word I'm looking for? Interactions with it, it didn't matter because if 100 or 200 people saw it, most people would kill to sell one to 200 houses in a year. And that's all that mattered for me.
When you first started and you were dealing with potential clients, did you ever find any challenges with confidence? And let me kind of tell you what I mean by that. So when I started with my license, like I would go into listing appointments or deal with buyers or whatever it would be. And it's not that I didn't know the right answer, but they could like smell the green on me, you know? And then like, as you've gone through it a little bit, like you kind of, just the way you would deliver your information would be more confident. And then I would stop getting those questions that like, hey, how long have you been in the business? Because I didn't sound like I was green. You know, did you run into that at all?
Oh,
when you
all
started?
the time. Because since I was 23, I mean, the question I got was, how old are you? And I used to also have very long hair. So the reason I actually cut my hair was to make myself look older. And so that was, and I don't think that was anything somebody told me. I think my husband, one of my family members said when I was complaining about it, they're like, you look like you're just fresh out of college because you are. They're like, if you want to not look that way, you need to figure it out. And so I went and chopped my hair off, I think like a week later. And now my hair's been kind of my thing. But yeah, so that was one way. But one of my mentors, she had told me, because I would show houses and I think people smelt the green on me on top of it being like, you look really young. So it's kind of a duo, but I got asked all the time, how old are you? And so I ended up finally building the confidence and said, old enough to help you buy or sell a house. And I wouldn't say it arrogantly. I would find a way to like, kind of like gracefully say it. Or, there was like one person that I remember had said like, well, I've bought and sold like 3 or 4 houses in my life. And at that point, I think I had done like 10 or 15. And so I think I had like somehow like gracefully kind of made the comment like, oh, I hear you. Like I've got my, I got my license. I did this, I've done X, Y, Z amount of houses. I understand the transaction and a lot of different like ways that come about it. So I had to end up building confidence in myself to respond to those comments in ways that were not arrogant or boastful, but keep telling myself, you're the one with the real estate license. You're the one doing this day in and day out. Like, you just closed a deal last week. They probably haven't closed a house in like 5 years. Like, you can do this. So it was like internal having to tell myself that you got this, that I think finally showing that externally to others. But it did, I want to say it probably took a certain amount of transactions, I think. I don't think it's a time. I think it's how many transactions under your belt until you finally build that confidence. And I'd say it was probably around 1.5 to 2 years when I finally, I think, found my voice, found my confidence. I also made myself get my broker's license the second I could. So I got my broker's license after the 2 years of having your license. Sorry, that's my Ring doorbell. So,
never heard that noise before.
Yeah, I know, right? Right as the trash guys is driving by. But yeah, so I ended up getting my broker's license after I've had my license for 2 years because I wanted to educate myself more and show everybody that I was serious about it because there's not a lot of people around our area that actually carry their broker's license.
Yeah.
And so then that was my second way of building confidence for myself, but then outwardly showing people like I'm in this for the long haul and I am serious about this. And mix of those with the transactions, you finally kind of find your voice and also your abrasive side.
I saw on one of your pages or something that so you're top 10 in your area. Okay. How many deals did you do your first year?
I know I did 4 million. I want to say, I don't remember how many that equated to. I want to say it was around 30 to 35 units my first year.
And prices have gone up, haven't
Yeah,
they?
I know,
It doesn't take that long to get there anymore.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
So yeah,
Wow.
my first year that I want to say I went from like 4 to 10 to like 18. And then now we're like about 40 million at 140 to 150 units.
Okay. Wow. So obviously that was a progression. So I'm assuming that was like over the last year that you did like 140 units roughly.
Last year, I think we ended up 138.
So how long have you been in that ballpark? How many years?
Probably 3-4 years now.
Okay. When you started getting traction, you're like, okay, I'm closing deals now. How did you work with the systems you had, and how did you kind of lock that in and say, okay, here's like the game plan now, so that you were able to maintain but also progress?
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately ended up with the systems that I built, I was able to hire a TC and a marketing manager, and they're actually able to work within my CRM because the systems had places for them, for everything my transaction coordinator had to do, everything my marketing manager had to do, for every listing, for every transaction, whatever it was. They were able to integrate very easily into what I had already built, since I had already essentially created seats for them. Before them, it was me and all the seats. But once I brought them in, they were able to kind of just gracefully sit in there and go along with the flow to be able to then help the continued growth, but also making sure that like balls weren't being dropped.
Okay. So yeah, I mean the TC and marketing managers, I mean they kind of keep the consistency there, but like was there anything that you did to like hit the gas more in like what areas were you doing that kind of kept that flow? Because I see we work with a bunch of agents that like when they're hot, but then they're like they drop down and then they're like, life's miserable again. Like how do you keep the steady, inflow?
So I would say all that consistency with the marketing never stopped. And it just progressed. What's different now versus it being open houses in, now it's just a plethora of listings and marketing for our listings. And so the consistency of that essentially kind of is our funnel. I would say most of my business ends up coming from Google or from social media. I pay for leads. So it wasn't like go pivot. How do I get busy again? I think just all those years of consistency of marketing myself and being like, I'm a real estate agent. I do this. There's at least one post every single day on any platform that I have that says Megan's a real estate agent with whatever it is that I'm doing. That has just done for 8 years, has now essentially just created a ever kind of flow of people just calling and being like, hey, I knew you're in real estate. I've known you're in real estate. I followed your journey. Let's do this.
So it's more Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. So it was just that consistency that I don't have to like go reinvent the wheel. I haven't found myself in slow parts. If I am in a slow part, I'd probably just go do an open house to try and convert some buyers to kind of fill the time that, or what I would likely end up doing is tweaking our systems.
So you're not above that at the point you are now, if need be.
Yes, I've not found myself in a lull of slowness to where I'm trying to build it back up.
So it's like, it's more not taking your foot off the gas, but also capitalizing on the momentum that you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What's an area as an agent that you find that you consistently have to work to grow in?
I guess I would say kind of the marketing because transactions stay the same for the most part. The difference is I have to remember to ask if a Ring doorbell is staying or not. The house itself has not changed. The transaction is very similar. Marketing changes, where to find buyers, how to tailor the house, what is actually working with people versus what is not. That part is the part that is, I think, ever changing. For the longest time it was Facebook, then it was TikTok, then it's Instagram. It's just been trying to kind of capitalize that and adjust to where the people are, and then kind of adjust your business to be tailored to that. Now, I will say I don't tailor every aspect of my business to it. I do have my limits. And so part of mine is TikTok. I don't have a TikTok. I hate TikTok. I am well aware people have a ton of success on TikTok, but I won't do it because it doesn't bring me any kind of joy. And so there is kind of then having to adjust to things like that as well, to make sure that you don't become obtuse, but you're still kind of weeding through and trying to make sure that you're standing out, your listings are standing out, and it looks different from what the other 780 of us in this area are doing.
Yeah. Now with 140 or somewhere around there transactions, you have a lot of ammunition to create content with, essentially. What do you do? Let's pick a listing. You have new listing coming out. What are you doing over the lifetime of that transaction as far as creating content around that?
Most of the time I get most of it done within our first listing appointment. Pending the house, how long I anticipate to hold the house, the price range of the house kind of tailors what I need to create that first video and photo appointment. For the most part, most of my listings will only get really kind of one video, because I think us as a team, like our average days on market is under 7. So I'm not going to invest in like 3 videos per house because we don't need to. And so that first appointment is that if we're still on the market after probably about a month, I'm starting to reevaluate, do we need to make a new ad? Oh, here is the feedback from the showings. The backyard is not ideal for people. Okay, so what we need to do is then we need to remarket it for people who don't want a lot of landscaping. So then that's our second ad that we're going to create. But more times than not, I'm able to do everything within the first appointment, but if not, probably 2 different marketing appointments that we're doing to kind of create after all the feedback we had received the first maybe month or 2 on the market.
Okay. Let's say you get a super pimped out listing. Are you ever maybe one video created for the listing itself? Are you ever utilizing those listings as a set essentially and creating other content around them when they're that nice?
Yeah. I mean, we'll repurpose a lot of our listings, especially our higher end ones that are obviously going to be eye catching to people. We'll end up saving that and repurposing it either just for marketing the team itself, marketing like our abilities, or even just like the location. Like I do a lot of proximity videos. And so like, what's that subdivision like? What's it like living on that type of land? And then we're able to kind of reuse that as well and kind of take out maybe some of the house aspects, but kind of showing people what it's like to live on a farm or what it's like to live in this part of Columbia. So we kind of will repurpose it through those kind of different buckets as well.
How do you go about or what's your strategy around those things that you do talk about? Like you're talking about proximity videos, those type of things. How do you decide, like, how did the idea for that come about? What's the benefits to doing those? How does it bring people in?
Yeah. So for when it's like about a listing itself, I normally do them if there's a community within that listing. So like, for example, we had one last month where it's right by something called Stewart Park. There's no listings that ever come up over there. I think the last house that ever sold was like 3 or 4 years ago. And Stewart Park is a very highly sought after area, a part of Columbia that people want to live at. But not everyone knows what it actually looks like to live by Stewart Park. They've heard about it, but they've never probably actually walked the park. They've never seen it. They've never seen the community. And so we did a marketing video about that to be able to kind of show and highlight people like, yeah, the house is amazing, but the area is just as amazing or even better because this is where people live for 30, 40 years and don't move. And so then they're kind of buying into the romanticism of the area versus just the home, because they're buying a lifestyle and they're buying the house. And so them knowing what that lifestyle is normally ends up just kind of helping sell the house that much faster. And then we can use that if we list the neighbor's house or, just in general marketing and tailoring for that area. We're able to continue to use it just to highlight a part of Columbia.
Okay. Do you run ads on your social content?
Yeah. On most of our listing videos, they will always be run as an ad, as long as it's still on the market by the time it's on our list to do. But yeah, almost every listing will have ads that are ran on it, and then retargeting ads as well in the back end.
Okay. And how successful is that in bringing in clients? Like, do you get business often from those, or is that more of just like the overall strategy of kind of like keeping almost like a billboard, just kind of constantly keeping you in people's faces?
A little bit of both. It gets a lot of views on our listings, which then I'll go to like our Zillow and our third-party sites to be able to see what are the views before and after ads that are ran, to be able to see, hey, did that increase it here? Being able to see how it's performing to other like-kinded listings. But our listings on general will get anywhere from 15 to 30,000 views within about a 20 to 30 mile radius of the house. And so for me, it was finding also the people that maybe didn't know that they were looking for a house, or the people that aren't on Zillow. It's just kind of showing that to the masses versus just hoping Zillow is going to do the trick for me. And so, so that's part of it. Then the other part of it is essentially kind of a billboard for our brand. So we were one of the first people to do video marketing here in Columbia. No one else was doing it when we started. I think I started that like 6 years ago. Pretty much almost like right when I first got my first listing, I was like, I should do video. And so that was the other part, is marketing that, and that consistent running ads of all of our listing videos is why we're so list heavy, because so many people over the years have consistently seen them, that when they think of listing their house, they're like, oh, the Walters team, because they're on my shit all the time. And then that's how we end up being a really list heavy team.
How do you deal with engagement? You kind of have it automated. Does your team go in, or do you go in and interact with the audience? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so we have a social media manager that runs our team pages. He does all the engagement on our YouTube, our team pages, Google, everything that. He does that. On my personal stuff, it's all me. I had hired before in the past marketing managers to handle my personal stuff as well. And it just never felt right, whether it was engagement or posting. It always felt very wrong because it wasn't me and it wasn't authentic. The team is a little bit different because it doesn't have to be Megan's voice. It can be the team's voice. But my personal stuff, it's always me. Okay.
How do you go about, what are some things with your interactions on social media that help you convert, I guess? Like, is it like, hey, people that are following you and maybe you're talking with them, like, is there a strategy behind getting people to actually work with you? And the reason I'm asking is because I get a lot of people that tell me, it's like, yeah, I'm doing all this stuff on social media. Maybe they have a bunch of followers and they're like, we never get anything from it.
I think a big one is kind of like the different buckets of social media that I'll use, like the different types of posts. So I always have education, and so talking heads. And so I do one or two of those a week. So I'm telling people like advice within the real estate transaction or within, how to list their home. So you're building trust with that already, because I get a lot of like messages. So they might not comment because a lot of times it's a personal question, but I get a ton of messages off my talking heads. They're like, hey, I saw this, like, tell me more about it. And then I end up actually sending them a voice memo. I'm really lazy when it comes to texting anymore after I learned voice memos months ago. But the other thing I love about voice memos is they hear my voice. They hear the tone, because I know that sometimes you can send a message and it can just feel cold, short, and punctual versus being like, hey, I'm driving. I'm going to take time to actually explain this to you. Instant trust is gained. And then at that time, I'll also have people just shoot me messages. Hey, did you ever do a video about, 10 things I need to do before listing? Or did you ever do a video about this circumstance? And again, voice memo responding. So we do that. We do our listing videos. So showing production and showing, production in the sense of the level of actual physical production that we're doing for our listings. So high-end videos and content, but also production in the fact of that, hey, we're listing houses, we're selling houses, this is what we do. And then family. So those are kind of like my three things that I post on my social media, because between the three of them, it's relatable. I don't look too busy because I'm with my family. I'm a family person, but I'm really heavy in the listings and then the education of real estate. So one thing I learned probably 2 years ago is to stop posting my production continuously on my social media. That's on my team page. But if I posted a time I sold a house every single day, that's all it's going to be. And everybody's just going to think Megan's too freaking busy. They know I do well in real estate, but they don't need to know that I do well on the sense of there's a house every single day. There's no way she is going to have time for me. So I need to go to somebody else.
Right.
So instead, I'm giving them value in other things and showing them a little bit of glimpse of myself. And I think that's what makes it more approachable for people to reach out.
But your listing stuff the listing videos will go out.
Yeah. So they'll see that.
But you're just not be like, hey, I sold this many houses, that type of thing. You're not doing like crazy.
Yeah. It's not like every day there's an under contract post on my personal. There is on our team page, but not on like my personal stuff. And my personal page is where it converts. That's where people are reaching out instead of our team page of like, hey, been following you forever, want to work with you.
I like that. How many agents out where you are like on the same page and doing the same things you're doing? Is it a lot of competition, or are you kind of like the sore thumb in the area?
They started recently. There's probably about 5 other agents that started doing what I do. But for the first...
But not as good. No, I'm just kidding.
They're in the learning period. They are just like as I was. I mean, and I still am. They're in the learning period, but they are starting to do it. The biggest thing that people are still not doing is putting themselves in front of the camera. So sure, they're starting to pay the videographer to go make a beautiful video. Yeah. But frankly, people watch the video for the person. Like
some of them are scared shitless of the camera. It's crazy.
And so, that's the part where it's still different is I've just been in front of the camera enough that I got a lot more comfortable versus people are now just being like, oh, I'm going to do a listing video, but it's just of the house and it looks great because the videographer is awesome, but it still isn't leading to the same, I think, type of outcome as our videos are.
How long did it take you to get comfortable on the camera?
Oh, I still get nervous. I say that and I was a bartender. I was not anything with video. But I mean, a lot of it honestly is actually the videographer. And so I have now worked with 3 different videographers over the years, and I've been very blessed that all of them, we have had an incredible relationship to where I'm just comfortable with them. But I mean, I think if a random new person came about, I would probably be like right back to square one where I would be uncomfortable and you would see it. I think a lot of it is in the relationship you have with your videographer partner and how that starts to get a lot more comfortable.
What else outside of social media is like in your marketing strategy?
Google ads is a big one. They're like Google Business Verified, or the local verified. So if you ever Google Realtor Columbia, Missouri, we have to be one of 3. If we're not one of 3, we're going into the dashboard figuring out why the heck are we not. And alongside that is our Google reviews. So we have the most Google reviews of any agent here in Columbia. There's a brokerage that has more than us, but that's a brokerage, not an agent. So, but I will give that disclaimer in case anyone Googles me. But we have the most reviews. And so that's another thing. I'm a big pusher about that because the biggest cheerleaders, they can see me online and say, oh, she might be great, but then I might suck. But when they go to Google and they read 160 people, they're like, oh, okay, no, this is legit. It's not a scam. So that's a big one. One we recently just started doing was Zillow Showcase. And so not a lot of agents around here know about it, are doing it. And I think they only do 10% of a market or something. I can't remember what it was, But for me, the big thing with the Zillow Showcase is one, it makes my listings look different. And so since I pride myself on being a really list heavy agent, why would I not want my listings to look a lot better than every other Zillow listing? Because I know that's where people are still looking for the most part. But the biggest thing with that is the leads actually come to me directly versus somebody who paid for Zillow leads. My name, face, number is literally right there front and center. So when calls are happening, I'm going to likely convert it a lot better than a random agent who's trying to fiddle with their phone, trying to figure out what house you're talking about. And so that was another big one. So those are two, in my opinion, musts that work very well for our business.
Okay. What with the Zillow Showcase, aside from those two things, making the listings look different, leads coming to you, what like about the actual stuff that comes with it do you like or not like?
Yeah. So what I like is that it's very photo heavy, whereas the standard Zillow listing is very word heavy. Most people don't read a description. I don't even read a description. I'll be honest, ChatGPT writes all my home descriptions at this point in time because it used to take me 30 minutes where it now takes me 30 seconds. Most people don't read it. And so whereas Zillow Showcase, it's photo heavy. That's what people are looking at. So that was a big one for me to where I think works really well with the actual consumer on the other side. Things that don't work, you hate to pay Zillow.
Yeah. They are kind of butt heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just more probably a personal thing.
No, we deal with it too. I mean, they when they first started getting into like the marketing stuff, they were like, "Oh, be a Zillow certified photographer or whatever." I mean, it was really nothing, but at the same time, it was like a badge we could put out there. And then they start kind of like cutting us out and things like that, and or making us conform to what they do. And it's like that drives me up a wall because it's like, you work so hard to do your own thing, and then they kind of do that. But either way, what do you think about the 3D tour that they do?
My sellers love it.
Okay.
I never look at it.
Yeah.
I've been in the house, so I know what it is. I do look at it after it goes up to make sure it's correct. I think some people will find value to it. Again, I think sometimes half the thing with the Zillow Showcase is more your sellers. And it's just showing another thing of value that you're doing for them that maybe other people aren't. And whether it actually helps sell the home, most of the time I'm probably not going to know. But it is showing that you're doing more and being different than everyone else. But I do think that the 3D tour, I mean, I think it's a cool thing, but I will say I feel like I hear more positive from my sellers versus like a buyer being like, hey, that was really neat. My sellers are like, oh, that's really cool. So
do you ever use Matterport for any of your listings?
I don't. No, I didn't like Matterport. And so for me, the 3D tour stuff feels very Matterport-y to me.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, but no, I never used it. The dollhouse view thing, probably
gets mixed. It's always gotten mixed reviews. For us, it was huge during COVID because like we were the only piece that like agents couldn't do remotely, for the most part. So like we went in there. I never thought people were gonna buy homes sight unseen the way they did. Yeah. But yeah, that was like we did more of those than like ever during that. Okay, so. All that's amazing. Sounds like just the way you're talking about it, like it sounds like just the system is there. I think that's phenomenal. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of agents don't have in place. Let's talk briefly. What is the benefit? So like all this marketing, we're talking about how that's like helping you grow your business, do all this type of thing. Talk about like the benefit to the sellers.
Yeah. So I mean, ultimately, it just makes their house stand out. Like everyone within a certain radius is going to know that their home is for sale. There's a lot that goes into the back end before we even do the marketing, though, like prepping their house. So it's like, I can bring in a beautiful videographer and make the house look incredible, but there is actually a lot of prepping even before I ever list a house that I call it their seller homework. And so I'll send almost every listing a very lengthy, customized thing to their home of homework to then make sure that it shows. But then when we're doing all the marketing, I mean, our days on market are lower. Our price adjustments pretty much are non-existent. Our list to like sale ratio is above 100%. And so all of that marketing and leading up to our listings just gives our sellers a better ROI and process through the actual listing of it. So they just have more success. than listings that maybe didn't have all that prep and then all that marketing and exposure on their home.
Do you think sellers, when they're interviewing agents, put enough emphasis on the agent's marketing?
I think they do now.
Okay.
I think for a while it was kind of not as important, but I think most people, at least in our area, tend to now understand where people are finding houses and what houses are selling versus which houses are not. So I think as kind of time continues, they're seeing the value in how their house can look, and they're proud of their house. If it's their home, they want it to show the best. Even if they, hire the person with the cell phone photos, they're still going to be internally pissed because they're like, wait, I know my house looks better. I know that the view from that window at this time of day is absolutely breathtaking, but it doesn't show. So they want their home to look the absolute best that they can. And so they're starting to correlate that with marketing, because marketing is just such a blanket term. Everyone can get a professional photographer, but do they know at what time to actually take that picture from that side of the house to be able to show what this home really truly is? I think that's the other kind of part of it, where I listen and I ask questions in those appointments. I'm like, what do you love about your home? What do you hate about your home? And then essentially our marketing approach is around those answers versus me coming in saying, I know the best. I know what to do. I'm like, no, you know your home. Like, tell me about it. And then let me customize it around that. Because if they absolutely hate this one room in their basement, why the hell am I going to put a photo of that one room in their basement? Like, it's not a marketing thing. That's a marketing for them of what gives them confidence about their house.
I love it. So safe to say that most people in your area know who you are?
I would say so.
Humble
I don't
brag.
like.
I know. But I mean, like, you're putting enough out there that, like, it's hard to miss you if you're looking for a real estate agent, probably, right?
Yeah. You can Google our team pretty easily and find quite a lot about us.
So we're coming up on the end. So what would you tell people that are looking to get into the real estate market right now, and why would they choose you? Like, what makes you the right agent? It's
all the homework and all the steps, everything that we do ahead of time, to then the actual presentation of your home, but then even way past that into the actual transaction. And I think there's so much emphasis in marketing, but there's also so much emphasis on the actual process, making sure it's smooth. It's a legal transaction that can end you in court. You can be in trouble. You can end up getting sued. And I think that part right there is also another huge component to real estate that I stress to sellers. Like, yes, I can make your house look gorgeous and get all these views on it, but I can also keep you out of the courtroom and keeping you in line, getting your highest ROI, and making sure that all of our T's are crossed and I's are dotted, to make sure you get the best results and in the best way.
And what's it like working with you and your team?
Most people say it's fun.
Fun?
I mean, they love to see how their house changes, like in the sense of like being able to see their home and what they've created in the space that they're so proud of. They love to see how we get creative with it and how we're able to showcase it. But I'll say they'd say fun in that stance and then easy in the other, because we have like my transaction coordinator, we have my marketing manager, we have everything in place where everything is just streamlined. They're getting weekly updates about the whole transaction, where we're at, what I need from them, in constant communication through text, call, and email. So it's easy and they're in the picture. I think that they always come out at the end having so much more knowledge about real estate because I over-explain versus under-explain. And so they have a lot more confidence too in what they just did throughout the process. And so I would say a common kind of thing I've read on our reviews is easy. And then it also just kind of feels like family, because we're in such communication and being able to be there and meet them where they're at, versus telling them that they need to fit in this box of our transaction and how we work versus us working for them.
That's awesome. How do people get in touch with you or find you?
Yeah, you can Google Megan Walters, Columbia, Missouri, and that'll lead you to our website where it instantly goes to my personal email. But that if not, then just also on Facebook or Instagram, you can look up the Walters team or Megan Walters, and both end up coming straight to me still too.
And we ask every one of our guests to send us off with a positive message to the world.
Oh gosh, just like the song one, I feel like I need to look up Pinterest. And
ChatGPT.
like, give me something positive. Oh, I don't know. I would say like even when doors are closing, like there's a reason for it. And see that as an opportunity versus a failure. Wait to see what door is supposed to open because that door is closing, and don't let it beat you down, because whatever that next thing is that is coming is going to be far greater than you would have ever imagined.
That's amazing. So go get your real estate license, right?
Yeah.
That's it. That was great. I think I had a lot more things that I would have gotten into, so maybe we can revisit this later. But that was great. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah. No, thank you for having me.